This is a Sage Story.
Hi, my name is Bev, and this is a life-changing story for me. It was back in the mid-1970s, and I had dropped out of being a school teacher because the kids were starting to figure out that I was lesbian. And I think I was probably working for the state at the time, and a new feminist bookstore had just opened in historic Oakwood in downtown Raleigh. So I went down there to see what it was all about, and I met my best longtime friend there. We're still in contact with each other. And two, I saw some flyers on their bulletin board for the National Women's Music Festival at the University of Illinois and for the Michigan Women's Music Festival. So I decided that I was going to go to the National Women's Music Festival that summer. So I went, and I was sitting in a concert there one day, and the women from Lady Slipper Music were there, sitting in front of me. And one of them turned around and said, "Bev, there's somebody you should meet." So she introduced me to this woman who was sitting just a row over, and it turned out she lived 3 blocks from me in Raleigh. So we became good friends, and she told me that there was a women's coffee house that was starting in Raleigh. Well, the second wave of women's liberation had reached North Carolina about that time, and some women in the community had wanted to start a women's center. And I think there were some women there from North Carolina State University, from a couple of the churches around, and so they had gotten together and started this women's center. Not lesbian, women's center. And so the woman that I had met and her partner went to a few of the meetings, and they tried to get some things on the center agenda that would address lesbian issues too. Well, as it turned out, the rest of the women weren't very open to this. And so these 2 women decided that they would form their own lesbian something, and they decided on a coffee house. Well, they got permission from the UU Fellowship to use their space off of Hillsborough Street. And so they began having people come for a potluck or a round robin, and they invited me to come. So I showed up, and it was very dark when I entered the building because everything was candlelit. And people were having a round robin. They were telling stories or playing their guitars or sharing poetry or something like that. And so I couldn't see as I walked in the building because it was so dark, but all of a sudden I heard this voice go, "Bev, come on in." And it was just like this huge door opened for me. I had been so isolated for a number of years, and I just walked into this whole community of wonderful women. So within a few months, I had joined the Women's Culture Collective. And the collective put on these coffee houses once a month for about 8 years. And we did all kinds of programs. We had local musicians come and perform. We had concerts. We had readings. One of our early coffee houses was we read Lillian Hellman's the Children's Hour. And we had authors come from around the state. We had professors come and discuss with us women's issues such as sexism and internalized sexism. We had artists come. One of the artists that we had was Jeb, who is Joan Byron from DC. She's a lesbian photographer, and she did a slideshow for us of her photographs. We had Kay Gardner come from Maine. She was a symphonic musician, and she came and did a workshop on reading auras and healing. I was a massage therapist at the time. I did a workshop for us on visualization and relaxation. We had women come and talk to us about women's health issues. And I was looking over some of the old flyers the other day, and I saw this one flyer for a women's health exploration. And in small print it said, "Bring your own flashlight and mirror, and there'll be a $2 charge for plastic speculum." Not too many people showed up for that one. But it was, it was kind of along the fried green tomatoes thing. This coffee house brought so many people together, and many of us are still friends 30 years later. Raleigh also has a women's potluck that's been going for 30 years, and those of us who are still in the area still go to that potluck group, which was kind of an offshoot from the coffee house. One of the last coffee houses that we had was with Kate Clinton, who is a well-known lesbian comic now. She did her first gig at our coffee house. That was about 25 years ago. The good thing about the coffee house was that it became a gathering place for women who weren't really into the bar scene. So it was a nice, and it also promoted lesbian feminism in the Raleigh area. Well, fast forward 30 years or so. I'm 67 now, and I'm very proud of what the coffee house accomplished, because there's still a community here thanks to the coffee house. And what it did for me was it plugged me into a huge network of lesbian women that, even though I moved around the country a lot, I was still able to connect with that community. At the time the coffee house was going, Lady Slipper Music in Durham was doing a lot of concerts with well-known women's music performers, such as Meg Christian, Chris Williamson, Holly Near, that whole group. And every time I walked into a concert, I just felt like I was home, and I still feel that way. So now we have the LGBT Center of Raleigh. I work a little bit with the SAGE steering committee, I guess you'd call it. And so there's another expansion of my community. And now, I'm bringing other older women to me as an extension of my community, and trying to think in a broader way about older women's issues. And so it adds a great richness to my life. I feel like I'm never without family because of this experience.
Share your story at sageusa.org/SageStory.